What does it look like editing a $100,000 TV commercial in 6 days? Well, I just did it, and the gap between my world and yours is smaller than you think. In this video, I'm going to show you behind the scenes of this real broadcast edit from bidding to delivery so you can steal my workflow and land your own six-figure editing projects faster than I did. Day 0. If you were to believe internet comments, you would think that all editing clients are terrible, low pay, never-ending revisions, and just not being trusted creatively. That's a lie. The truth is that incredible clients are out there. In fact, my students and I only work with the very best clients. You just have to know how to find them, how to speak to them, and how to build trust with them. But once you have great clients, your editing career goes on easy mode. Case in point, here's how I landed this commercial project. I simply got an email from one of my incredible collaborators, veteran commercial director Scott Rice, with the script and the timeline asking me if I wanted the job. The script was a comedy, which is in my lane. Basically, these dollar bill characters are at a support group meeting as the moderator tries to show them how to improve their lives. So that box was checked. Then I reviewed the timeline and it worked for my schedule, so check there. Then I put together a project bid based on similar projects I've done in the past. Your rate will vary depending on your location and where you're at in your career. I charge between $5,000 and $10,000 for a 30-second commercial. So I sent my bid and the director replied just like a couple hours later saying that works. So the job was secured, as simple as that. I didn't have to send a cold email without hearing back. I didn't do a free test edit. I didn't even compete against other editors. That's what can happen when you build trust over many years with incredible clients. So on day 0, I reviewed the script, reviewed the timeline, put together my bid, got approval on my bid. If you want help finding great editing clients so you can stop competing for low-paying jobs with clients who don't trust you creatively, grab a free copy of my editing career mastery guide at the link in the description. Day 1, part 1. When I got footage like this early in my career, I would get so excited about starting the edit that I didn't spend any time preparing to edit, and that would always come back to bite me later. Now, I start with a step that doesn't even involve my editing software. I build what I call an emotion and story map. The story beats on one side, the emotion I want to target in the audience on the other. Then I organized all of the media into a string out. I can't stress enough the importance of this step. You can see here how in my timeline everything is meticulously organized by shot and take, and it's in story order, so I can navigate it effortlessly. Then I outputted the string out to my 46-inch OLED TV and watched it from start to finish with no distractions. I would take notes when a shot or performance sparked emotion in me. As the editor, you have to remember that you're the first audience member. So it's important to write down your first impressions because knowing your footage, like the back of your hand, pays huge dividends later, especially when you're editing live with a director or ad agency or client. For this project, I spent the second half of day 1 putting together a rough cut, and it sucked. Day 1, part 2. That might sound self-defeating, but admitting rough cuts suck has been a key mindset shift for me. You might be a perfectionist like me, and staring at a blank timeline can feel paralyzing. Or worse, you re-edit those first few shots in your project, and then you only have a few minutes to throw the rest of the edit together because of a deadline. Well, now I just accept that the first cut is going to be the worst version of the edit I ever make. It's the creative exploration with my collaborators and refining the cut over many, many revisions that's gonna make it great. But even though it's gonna suck overall, I have my emotion and story map and I'm familiar with the footage, so I get the big stuff right, even in my first cut. I know it'll be in the ballpark of what the director and the client were expecting, which is so important. Tactically speaking, I like the pancake timeline method, so I simply drag my favorite takes from the string out into my rough cut sequence and build the first cut. But you'll notice here that there's a massive challenge with this spot. See that empty chair? Well, there's no main character because it's going to be 3D animated later. So I had to really rely on temporary voiceover and sound design to sell the story in the rough cut.
Nothing I do seems to pay any dividends, you know?
So here's what I did on day 1. I built an emotion and story map, I organized my string out, I watched through all the footage, and I built a rough cut that sucked. Then I sent it to the director via Frame.io for feedback. Day 2. I woke up on day 2 to feedback from the director. Now, you might hear the word feedback and have traumatic flashbacks from working with low-paying clients who have never-ending notes that don't really make sense. And I totally get that. I've been there. But with incredible clients who are true creative collaborators, this is really the best part of editing, in my opinion. It can be like improv comedy. The director throws out an idea, and I say, yes, and what about this? Or I throw out an idea, and he says, yeah, and what about this? And on this spot, we did a lot of that, trying a lot of different ideas. So after day 2, my first rough cut has now spawned 4 different versions of the spot, with all variations on what works best for the comedy. So here's what I did on day 2. I completed the director's notes, but then I also completed multiple creative explorations, and then I posted all those new versions to Frame.io so we could review them later. Day 3. While the first 2 days on this project were consecutive, day 3 for this spot happened a bit later because the director and the client had to cast and record the voice talent for the spot.
Nothing I do seems to pay any dividends, you know.
Once the voices came in, there was an entirely new layer of editing to do. So I organized and listened to all of the voice takes, I chose my favorites, and I shared them with the director. And just like the last pass, this spawned a bunch of new creative ideas and a bunch of new versions. So here's what I did on day 3. I reviewed and cut in voice performances, I refined the rhythm, sound design, and pacing, and created multiple versions that worked well, and finally posted them to Frame.io for client review. Day 4. With the voices locked, we moved our attention to visuals. For this spot, the director acted out the parts, while our animator recorded Scott, the director's movements, with facial capture software. Once those files came in, I was back to work with another editing pass, this time organizing, reviewing, and cutting in all the facial capture files. And then another layer of choosing the best performances, exploring alternate options, and trying to find the comedy before the spot is passed off for final animation. This spot had some other challenges, like the number of 3D characters in certain shots. This shot here was really complex because there were so many bills in the scene, and I had to meticulously choose the best performance for each one and place them in there. So on day 4, I reviewed and cut in facial captures, refined the rhythm, sound design, and pacing of the spot overall, and with the director created a couple of viable options for the client to choose from, so we posted those to Frame.io and sent them off. Day 5. As soon as I got word that the client picked their favorite version with the facial captures cut in, I was able to prep all the files for our animator. And so day 5 for me was split into several short sessions as new shots came in from the animator over a week or 2. On a spot like this is a really magical time because cutting in animation passes and seeing everything come together is super rewarding and fun. So on day 5, I sent raw files to the animator, I cut in animation passes as they came in, and finally posted it to Frame.io for client approval. Day 6. After a few little tweaks, we got final approval, and that meant it was time to finish and deliver. And on jobs like these, it's such a treat to work with a post-production team where the colorist just does color, the sound mixer just does sound mixing, and there's just no more slogging through every part of the editing process as a one-man band without any help, like I had to do earlier in my career. So I sent out a final proof to the director and client, and I heard back pretty quickly, and they were just both ecstatic. It's always awesome to have happy customers. Then I followed a spec sheet that was provided by the client to prep the files for broadcast television, web, and social. And I also always make a master version of the spot in ProRes 4444 for archive purposes. Again, I post all these and deliver all these on Frame.io, and you'll see our folder is up to 45 files for just one spot. If you resonate with this workflow and want to learn it while editing high-end projects for your showreel with direct feedback from me, click the link in the description to check out my editing mentorship. Here's the final spot.
Nothing I do seems to pay any dividends, you know.
How many of you feel the same as Alexander?
Yes, me.
How many of you have been following the steps?
I want to, but it's hard to remember all of them.
Right?
Same here, it's way too complicated.
Let's take a break.
Is it over?
Now you know how to tackle commercials with six-figure production budgets, but none of it will matter if you can't land clients like this in the first place. So watch this video next where I get my editing student a higher paying client in only 9 minutes.